Hello, North Central Washington, and welcome to Networked. I'm your host, Jenny Rojanasatian, and I'm so excited to be with you today. I've invited the Executive Director of FocalPoint Educational Services to talk about the incredible tutoring services her company provides. Whether you have a youth who's in kindergarten all the way up through high school, FocalPoint has some services to help provide youth with extra support and coaching and reading, writing, math, and more. Don't go far. I'll be right back with Meliesa Tigard. And welcome to Networked. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Meliesa Tigard with FocalPoint Education Services. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you on air. We were talking before we got started. We've never really had a chance to sit down and talk about your business and what you're doing. So this is an exciting opportunity for me, and I'm excited for our audience to learn more about you and the work you do.
Well, thank you. I love what we do, so I'm excited to have a chance to talk about it.
Perfect. And we're gonna do we're gonna cover a lot today about your business, and then also do some talk about math later on in the segment, which will be really fun. But let's start with a little bit about you personally. Tell me about your story. Are you a Wenatchee native?
Well, so my parents are.
Okay.
So my mom's grandfather homesteaded here in 1898. My dad's family came here in the early 1900s. They grew up here, drove through Montana on their way to graduate school in New York, where randomly I was born, but decided Montana was where to raise their kids. So I grew up in Montana, and then all of my family migrated back here afterwards. And so we all live in the Wenatchee area now.
Wonderful. And tell me about your journey to start your own business.
Right. There always is one. So I was working in several different industries, and I just felt like I felt unhappy because I wanted to serve people. It needed, for me, my life's work needed to be about helping people. And so I was looking for something like that. And my mom went to this training for helping kids with reading. She was an educator and had been for a number of years. And I just got really excited about it. And I did a 2-year training program. And then I worked in a number of different learning centers. And then I came here where my mom kind of had worked with a few students, but didn't really have a business going. And I just came and joined her and built a business. And she retired, and then I took over, and it became mine and continued to grow. So it was a fun story. I focused on kids who have ADHD early on, and then I had my daughter, and that's what she has, and I had the right skills. Yay.
Yes. Well, I love that it's a mother-daughter origin story.
Yes.
Yes. We interview a lot of folks like my husband and I that are husband-wife teams, but I love that your mom was an educator and brought you into that.
Right.
And that you were able to build this business. Tell me about how long you've been serving youth in our community now.
She started in 1998. I joined her in 2001.
Okay.
So that gives me 21 years here.
And you just mentioned briefly the business started a little bit focused on ADHD or maybe being a provider. It
was mostly
support.
Yeah, and
families.
It was mostly reading to start with.
Okay.
We were really focused on reading and dyslexia and early learning disabilities and reading and behavioral stuff with ADHD. Yeah.
Talk to me about why having a service like yours is so important for families to kind of bridge the gap between what's happening in K-12 systems.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, we've got a lot of really dedicated teachers who do an excellent job. So I want teachers always to know when they see me, I've just made their job easier. That's my goal. And what we do is we provide that extra small group or one-on-one support after school. And I remember talking to a 6th grade teacher who said, there's all of these problems that exist in my classroom, and I'm not going to have time to actually really delve into them. That is my whole job, is to delve into, and the enemy of learning is confusion. So if I can find what confused you and I can break it down into the little pieces and parts of that, then we can actually resolve it, which then can make a long-term difference for you, not just today. And so that's kind of our focus, is how we can help solve the problems that are are issues for you. And our entire classroom is designed around kids who are bouncy. We have wiggle chairs. There's fidgets on the table for the kids who need them. You can be like this and you can be learning. You can be standing and you can be learning. And it's all designed for a kid who maybe has some trouble staying focused. And we're going to bring you in and make it interesting. And we're going to pay you at the rate of 1 focal point per hour. And you get to go shopping in the store at the end. So we're going to find ways to keep you motivated.
So you're creating an experience that really helps that child be primed for success.
Yes.
And like you said, tackling some of those maybe pinpoint things that individual educators in a class of 25 youth can't get to every day.
Right. Every student, every time has a personally designed lesson. And I know this because I design them. So I go through every file of every student every week, even if I'm not the teacher that works with them. And so there's going to be a personally designed lesson for that particular student at each time. And then there may be some independent work towards the end, at which point they can earn a spot in the comfy corner, which is where I have beanbag chairs and a couch. And you can
reward-based systems.
You can flop and learn. Well, we all get paid to do our job.
Yeah.
So I like that what we do is we set it up such that we pay a kid to do their job too.
Mm-hmm. And their job is to learn.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's talk, I know we're going to dive heavily into math later, but there has been a shift over the years about STEM and math. And you mentioned earlier that reading was the initial really primary focus. Why the evolution over time into other maybe topic areas like math?
There was a need.
Yeah.
I could see the need in Wenatchee. I was getting the calls from the parents. My child has trouble with math. I was originally comfortable with doing grade school level math. And then I started getting calls from parents, can you work with Algebra 1? Can you work with geometry? And so I personally, about 15 years ago, just started moving back into math and going through it myself. And keeping ahead of the first student or two. And now I'm to the point where I'll have an Algebra 2 student in and they'll be like, doing an assignment and then I'll come and look at it and it takes me very little time to see whether it was right or wrong. And they'll be like, how do you do that so fast? And I say, well, this is my 15th time taking your class. At some point, anybody's going to get good at it.
Yeah. I'm sure that I don't know why, but there's that nostalgia of thinking about algebra,
right?
That gets all of us gets us all a little anxious. So I'm sure that provides so much relief to parents.
Yes,
that they can have a resource to support their child's learning.
Well, and math has changed.
Yeah.
So back when I was in school, we were essentially taught, here's the algorithm, do it, follow these instructions, do it this way, which is great if you're doing it consistently. But what we found is that kids graduated from high school, if they didn't use it consistently, their math skills were just basically gone because they didn't understand why they did anything that they did. So when you look at the way that Common Core is designed and the way that we're doing math now, the whole goal is so that you understand why you're taking the steps you're doing. If I can show you that, then a kid who always has a calculator in their pocket because they always have the phone doesn't pull it out and look at me and go, wait, is that division? Which is actually the sort of thing I've seen kids do.
Yeah. It's about problem solving is what I'm hearing from you.
Right.
You don't have to be the master of a particular subject area, but to know how to start to find the answers by problem solving it.
Exactly. Yeah. And what we want is for kids to, and I tell kids, if you don't understand math, I can cheat you. If you don't understand math, you don't understand what a good deal is. And I could set this up in such a way that I could be taking advantage of you and you aren't going to be able to see that. So this is what I want you to have is the skills and the analysis to be able to be like, that doesn't make sense because you have the logic. Yeah.
I was just thinking about the point of taking advantage. Math is so important to everything that we do. As adults and managing finances and being able to do that. So those are it's not just about passing grade, but these are life skills.
Right. And when I have teenagers who are like, well, why am I ever going to need this? My answer is that the synapses that you're using in your adolescence are the ones your brain is going to go back to over and over and over for the rest of your life. So if we were teaching you a linear logical math curriculum, during your adolescent years, you're going to go back to that to be able to literally logic your way through life's problems, to be able to figure out, does this make sense? What decision should I make? You're going to use those synapses for the rest of your life. And math was the thing that stimulated them for you.
I love that analogy. It makes sense. Hopefully it does to our youth.
Right.
Now, tell me a little bit about if a parent is watching today and they're like, I've always thought about tutoring or getting some additional help. What are the services that you offer? Do kids enroll in like a 12-week program? Is it one day a week? How does that, how do the services work?
Sure. I keep it open-ended because it takes as long as it takes.
Okay.
So what I do is I set you up on a contract, and we'll talk about when you get to the point where you need to. There's no pressure. You stay as long as you need to, and you can stop at any time. On the other hand, I like to see students twice a week. If you're only there once a week, I feel like a lot of times the kids don't make the kind of progress that I want to see them make. So 2 to 3 times a week for most students. We do a lot of language arts. We do a lot of writing. Writing is the thing that improves reading more than anything else. And the way that we are doing our school curriculums now, you have to know a lot of things about writing. There's theme, and there's content, and point of view, and character development, and all of these things you're expected to know. So we have all of that in our curricula.
And it's after school hours, or weekends or nights. When are the students in at your facility?
My day starts at 1:15, but that's usually homeschoolers. And then I run all of my sessions 15 minutes after the hour. That started because kids got out of the Wenatchee schools just about the right time to show up at 3:15. So I've got my sessions at 1:15, 2:15, 3:15. My last one in the day is 6:15. And we run student sessions Monday to Thursday. I learned years ago kids don't get much done on Friday after school. And I started feeling like I wasn't giving their parents. It's important to me to give mom and dad what they're paying for.
Right.
So I eliminated Friday after school sessions, but I do assessments on that day. And so most of our kids are just after school, Monday to Thursday.
Well, and that's really neat that you offer all the way into the later in the evening hours to be flexible for families and other commitments. So the students in your program, let's talk about their age brackets. Are these, 6 to 8 year olds? We mentioned a little bit about algebra, so I'm assuming we're going up into high school.
So my day starts with teaching the alphabet to a 6-year-old, and it ends with teaching trigonometry or pre-calc to a 16-year-old. So that's how things work at FocalPoint. We do K-12. Language arts. We do high school writing. So we do help kids with writing in their college writing. So I do help some kids from Wenatchee Valley College with their writing assignments. And then we also do K-12 math. So if you're, our biggest bump is usually 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and they're wanting to get ahead or catch up in language arts, math, or both. And right now, because of the COVID, there's a lot of kids who normally wouldn't have needed extra help, but do. So we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, I want to we have to head to a commercial break, but just touch on that for a minute. I think sometimes there's a perception of if you're falling behind or you're needing a little help that for our kids, that makes them feel insecure. But there's so much of that right now that has nothing to do
it's not you.
with their particular skill set or how smart they are. It's been a hard couple years for adults.
It has.
and youth. And there's a lot of people who need a little extra support.
And the thing, too, that I tell kids is you don't hire a coach because you're bad. You hire a coach because you want to be the best. And my job is to be your coach. And what I'll do is I'll push you to do more than you would have done on your own. And that's where the big gains are made. So a kid who comes to me at 4th grade has a higher than average chance now of making the highest math group in middle school.
I love that analogy. And it's super positive. Everyone needs a coach in their corner.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's our job. Bring you from where you are to the next level up.
Perfect. Well, we have to head to a commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Networked. And we are back with Meliesa Tigard from FocalPoint Educational Services. Perfect. Such a great conversation we just ended on in the first segment, talking about every kid needs a coach and how the services you provide really just help a child get to that next level. Yep. You're really passionate about math. We touched on that earlier. And we also touched on why that's been such a growing need. Starting your company with really focus on reading and writing support. Now it's evolved into math. Tell me more about your philosophy about math. I know.
Well, so if I can get you good at the basics, if I can get you a good foundation and add, subtract, multiply, divide really solid, I can see where that pays off all the way through middle school and high school. Because by the time you get to high school, you're going to have questions like, what multiplies to make a 42 that adds or subtracts to make a -1? Now, you can't pull out a calculator and just answer that. So if your basic math skills aren't good, you're going to run into a number of different scenarios where it takes you longer. You don't have the mental energy to actually think about the higher stuff because you're busy with the crunching of the littler things. And it is more confusing and more difficult for you, and you will dislike it and therefore want to spend less time on it. If I can get you really solid on your basics, the rest of math is going to be easier. And if you can get to the point where it feels like you're solving puzzles, it gets fun.
And it's important to make learning fun.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You talked about that. This is their job is to learn and to be in school, and it should be a fun and rewarding environment. You've got some philosophies on keeping everything very simple, as well as some math mapping. I know we have a couple slides to show to kind of give us a frame of reference. So let's talk about the math rainbow for a second.
All right. Well, all of your numbers, as you learn how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them, they're all going to work based on how far they are away from 10. Because we have 10 numbers in our system from 0 to 9. It's because early humans were carrying around 10 fingers, and that's the way they organize things. So this is just a visual way for you to learn whose partner is which. So you can see on there the orange arc up there. 1 plus 9 makes 10. 9 and 1 are partners. It's easy for you to visualize 1. It's not easy for you to visualize 9. So instead of teaching you how to think in 9s, I'm going to teach you how to use 1s for all of the add, subtract, multiply, and divide that you need to do. And you're going to visualize that way. You can see the green line there that has 7 connected to 3. If you can't remember what 7's partner is, hold up 7 fingers. 3 fingers are down. Your fingers are going to tell you. So once you've learned it, you always have your cue with you. If you show up to my class without your fingers, you're excused from math that day. 7's partner is 3, and you can visualize a 3. So I'm going to teach you how to use shortcuts based on the 3, which you can see, instead of the 7, which you have to count.
Earlier, we talked, just touched a little bit on ADHD and students who might have some attention struggles, and this visualization, and not just, writing it out on a piece of paper must be very impactful for any learner, but but especially maybe our youth who see things a little differently.
Not everyone memorizes.
Yeah.
And if you don't memorize, these are going to be the tools that are going to help you. And you can see here is the 9 times tables, and that's set up on the math map itself. There's a lot of tricks for the 9s, but I do go ahead and show them on the math map because they are the diagonal line. So it's the easiest to see how the pattern's going to work.
And the math map is exclusive to
FocalPoint.
To FocalPoint and the work that you do.
That's right. And we're going to use that to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with 9. This is showing you essentially how 9 is going to travel from 9 to 90 when you're jumping forward, skip counting in 9s. And you can see you just go back 1 and down each time.
Okay.
And that's because 9 was 1 back from 10. So hold up 9 fingers. How many are down? 1. How many am I going to visualize? 1. So when I see the math map in my mind and I know how numbers are organized, I can just think my way back 1 and down, and there's my next answer.
And go through the process. I know that we have another piece of that too.
This is the basis of how the math map is organized.
Okay.
And you can see that everything in the column ends with the same number. You can see that everything in the row begins with the same number. And so this is a picture that's already in your head.
Right.
And that's essentially what I use this for, is just for you to see this is something I already know. Here, what we have is how you then break it down to something like 9 times 6. So you learned your first, middle, and last, 9, 45, and 90. Those are the only 3 that I want you to have solid in your head, because you can use those to then count forward or back to any answer that you don't already know. And you can see that from 45, you're just thinking your way back 1 and down, back to the 4s column, down to the 50s. 54 is my next answer. So I'm visualizing my way traveling through the number system, as opposed to having to memorize a bunch of disconnected answers that don't connect with each other.
When was like the epiphany or the moment that you said, hey, we need to look at math in this different way, and created these tools to help? to help
about
kids?
20 years ago.
Okay.
And I had always kind of used this 9s is 1 back thing. And then I was looking at it in my head kind of on a number line, and I realized 8 was 2 back. So then I started exploring the 8, and 8 goes back 2 and down every time, all the way down through the number system. So then I went, well, what does 7 do? And sure enough, back 3 and down all the way through the number system, creating a simple pattern that I can then show you. And a kid can walk into my office and walk out 20 minutes later counting forward and backwards by 7, which with any other method, you can't get that fast, that fast.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. And I love to do that one with moms and dads so that they can see your kid learned something today that they hadn't done before.
Right.
And then that's what I send home for homework. If you'll count forward and back using the pattern that I gave you, I'll teach you how to use it to get all of the answers that you need in under 3 seconds, which is fast enough to pass a time test. And this works all the way through 12s.
Very cool, by the way. And I enjoyed actually watching the visualization. To me, as you were explaining that, I was like, this looks fun.
Right? It is more fun to learn this way. And the whole thing is designed as a discovery process. Yeah. So instead of my telling you or teaching you how it works, I set you up with a math map and I ask you questions and get you to figure it out. And that's fun. Again,
going back to problem solving versus memorization.
Right. Yes. Because you remember things that you discover.
Yeah. And learn the problem and learn how to navigate through that. Let's talk a little bit about for parents who maybe are interested in coming in. We talked a little bit about the age range. What advice would you give for parents who are considering whether it's FocalPoint or another tutoring service or some additional support? I'm sure you have a lot of parents who come to you going, I don't know how to navigate. Like, where do I go?
Right. Essentially, we're the professional teachers. We're highly qualified, and I do lots of training with my staff. And also we're in a center environment, so we can have all of those supports right there. We can have the bouncy chairs in the classroom. We can have the FocalPoint set up. We can make sure that we have everything designed for a kid who maybe has trouble with focusing, and staff that's trained on how to work with those students. So that's going to be one thing that is going to be it. You're not going to get math mapping anywhere else. Nobody else can do the basic math as fast as what we can. And we have the entire high school curriculum for both Wenatchee and East Wenatchee for their math. So we can pull out the chapter that you're in the book and the extra resources and be able to give you additional practice problems if you don't understand what was on your homework today.
Yeah, really. That to me must be a huge difference because you're directly aligned with what's happening in K-12 versus maybe having an older kid in the neighborhood come over and tutor for a couple hours, right?
And there's lots of people who maybe understand math who don't explain it well.
Right.
It's a whole different skill set to be able to explain to you how to graph a parabola, right? And to be able to do all the different things that you need to do, and then even to make it fun.
Right. So instead of relying maybe on a neighborhood kid down the road who's really good at math,
who doesn't necessarily know how to teach you how to be really good the way they are.
Right. Aligned in with the curriculum and Common Core. Where do people find you? Like, where's your physical location?
We're right next to the museum and across the parking lot from the YMCA. So you can see our big FocalPoint sign there. And the easiest way to get to us is on the web. So it's FocalPointWenatchee.com. And on my website, there's a button that you can press and get yourself an assessment set up right now. If you're not ready to do that, you can
send me 1999, NCW Tech Alliance has served as our regional hub for technology innovation. As a 501c3, their nonprofit mission is to connect people and technology resources to create a thriving community. You can network with the team and guests from today's show by visiting them at www.ncwtech.org.